Hey, thanks for joining the channel on our second podcast. We have all members of the band here today. From last week, we have Shock.
Hey.
Bro.
I'm here.
There's myself, Josiah. Then we have Bernal over here.
Really, bud? You forgot my name?
I forgot your name.
That's a dick move.
That is a dick move, but it was worth it. And then last member, our singer, we have Connors.
What's up?
And then, of course, as you know, Bro's our bass player, Shock is our drummer, and Bernal is actually our rhythm guitar player. Although sometimes I swear you're lead instead.
Yeah, it depends on the song. I mean,
Right.
I'm versatile, in that way. Some songs I do, on our covers, I do the lead vocals. It just depends on what you need from me.
I wasn't talking about vocals.
Hey, fucker. It's a job I have.
But so last time we talked about what got us into music. So let's go ahead and get into what got you guys started into music. Doesn't have to be metal or anything. And then what got you into metal and playing your instrument or singing. So let's leave Connors for last because he's probably got a whole lot more to talk about than all of us. I know mine was probably the shortest.
What is that supposed to be?
It's because you're older, bud. You've just been doing it a lot longer.
Oh, wait.
It's not
Are
the
you
personal.
actually using me being older as a positive for me right now?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
I thought
No,
my
you're-
age was a problem.
No.
You're
No.
experienced and
No.
seasoned.
Yeah, experience.
Pretty
Yeah.
salty
Last
dogs.
time-
You went first last time, although yours was probably the shortest out of all of us.
It
This was
was.
the longest. But,
done a
all
lot
right, let's go
too.
ahead and start with you. What got you into music, like actually wanting to play?
When I was younger, I would always had an interest in music. I don't know what exactly kicked it off. It's just always been something I wanted to do. Like my grandfather on my mom's side played acoustic guitar, and I would just always listen to him play, and he was really good. You know what I mean? So I was interested in guitar from a very young age, probably like 6 or 7, maybe even younger. But really what got me kind of started playing music is my grandpa on my dad's side, my grandpa Gilbert, did in fact have an old acoustic guitar that he'd let me mess with. And I didn't know any chords or nothing. I was just a kid fucking
Right.
around,
Well,
But
I hate to interrupt your little parade there, but most kids at an early age actually want to play an instrument. It just dies after a while. Because
Right.
even when I was younger, I wanted to play guitar because my dad had that acoustic that I showed you
Yeah.
when I was 5, and it died very quickly. So, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah, the only reason I stopped playing guitar when I was younger is because my grandparents had me straight convinced that it was the most expensive instrument in the history
Yeah,
of ever.
same.
Yeah. And it was like his little rinky-dink acoustic guitar might have cost him $50.
Try
You know
buying
what I
a
mean?
tuba.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like going to
No
because
shit.
I worked over at Roper as a counter salesman. I've told you guys, and it was like just even paying for renting one of those damn violins is like,
Dude, yeah.
Are you fucking kidding
It's
me?
ridiculous.
Go buy a guitar.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so much cheaper, especially an
Yeah.
acoustic. I mean, my brother got
just
an
the cost
Ibanez
of
for my
strings.
brother got an
Violin
Ibanez,
strings
a
are
nice
ridiculous.
Ibanez for $80.
Exactly.
It was like they always make it seem like what you're
Yeah,
saying. My parents
they-
made it seem
my
like it was
grandparents made
$300. It's like
Yeah.
okay, maybe a
That's because
good.
parents
I
aren't
was-
dumb. They know that the guitar comes with an amplifier.
Right? Yeah.
Well, it was
like,
an acoustic, so they knew I wouldn't have an amplifier. I was interested in
those are
playing
cheap.
electric, but an
Right, yeah.
acoustic, just a cheapo acoustic was what I was playing. And then eventually I had a string snap because you do that. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Especially when they
that's
haven't been
usually what
changing
kinda
in like a
ends it, 'cause
decade.
You're like string snaps and then tuning.
Yeah. I didn't know how to do any of that, and I had one of my middle strings snapped. I can't remember if it was the G.
The
or
G
the
string
D.
always snaps first.
Yeah, but one of them snapped.
Damn.
Take that as a joke. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, like I had it snap, and I was convinced that like strings just cost like millions of dollars,
Right.
because I was a kid, and so I stopped playing that, and I found my dad's old trumpet from high school, and started playing around with that, and it was a hell of a lot harder to break, so I got interested in playing that. In middle school, I kind of started
Kids.
right. Well, just harder to break, and I still ended up dinging it and bent it and shit.
Yeah, it's still easy to ruin though.
Yeah, it is. It's effortless if
Unless
you
you
don't
got
know
that
what
slide,
to do.
Right,
unless
yeah,
you
you
got
don't
that slide
clean it.
oiled
Yeah,
really nice.
I screwed up one of the valves. I played it until I was like a sophomore, and then my grandpa's old cornet he gave me because my parents didn't want me to rent a trumpet. They didn't think I could afford it or we could afford
Well, it's not
it.
just that. I think mainly with parents, it's they think, oh, this
a
is gonna
passing
die.
fad, yeah.
It's gonna die.
They don't wanna
They're
waste
not-
it.
we're not
my
gonna put
parents-
money into this.
Yeah, my grandparents might have thought that, but my parents, once I started playing, I started playing in concert band and stuff. I really loved jazz band. I was just into music. I've always loved music, I kept doing it. I started in middle school. 6th grade was when I first started playing trumpet, like serious in a band and stuff. And I just stuck with it. I played it all the way through my senior year in high school. I just didn't get quite serious enough. I didn't practice all the time. So I never got like first chair. And I was good enough to do it, but didn't have the range to be on the first chair. So I just stopped trying. Like I was like, I'm cool with where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Right.
So And that was really what got me into music, just to play it. And I enjoyed, my favorite part about playing music was the performance.
Right.
You know? In marching band, dude, like I just got so amped at some of those performances. When you get a whole crowd to stand up and clap and cheer for you, you're like, it's
Right.
seriously like the best feeling in the world, you
Yeah.
know? And I just wanted to keep that feeling. Decided to buy my own guitar when I was in the Navy about 2005. Because I was, like I said, until then, straight convinced, most expensive instrument on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, I
It
walked
was only
into
in Japan that it was
right.
cheaper.
Maybe it was only affordable in Japan. Yeah. So I was in Japan, and I told the guy, I was like, I'm just starting out. What do you recommend? And I started with a little photogenic, whatever the fuck brand that is. And
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
and it was like $60 for the guitar, and he got me a little 15-watt practice amp.
Right.
You know.
Garbage
And I was
things.
messing with it in the barracks, just playing, and then one day I just decided, I want to play something nicer. I'm starting to kind of figure out, after being self-taught, like the first day I played my guitar, I bought Slipknot's Subliminal Verses tablature, and I
Okay.
played Duality for like straight 8 hours, just trying to figure out what the hell all those numbers meant on the page and everything, because I had a history with reading music, but I didn't know how to do it for guitar,
Right.
So.
Well, tabs was pretty easy. For me, it was more like you sitting down to actually try and learn that whole song. Bravo. Because me, it was literally like if I could play a part and then hit a part I couldn't, I was done. Like the first song I learned how to play was the intro. That was it.
Right.
Do 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 do, and I was done. That's it. Didn't go any farther than that, and that's pretty much how I learned everything. The only songs I could actually get through were video game soundtracks.
Right.
But then when you learn about video game soundtracks, they're the most fucking easy things you've ever heard in your life. They're just
Right.
very catchy. So it's like, okay. And then, someone showed me tabs, and I started learning more about that instead of just playing by ear. But at this time, I was also tuning my guitar instead of just playing it the way it was.
Yeah, dude, I tuned my guitar wrong for like the first year.
Yeah, I was playing songs by bands that were in drop D and drop B and E standard.
Yeah, so did I. So like I said, I learned Slipknot's. I learned that one song all the way through, and then everything after that was like, okay, well, I got the beginning of this one, and I like the way that sounds. I'm gonna start working on this next one, and for some reason, I just stopped learning whole songs. The only song that I didn't know how to do a pinch harmonic. I didn't know what drop
Right,
B
yeah.
was. I tuned it. My first time I tuned it to drop B, I used the order of flats to figure out what that was. And then I was talking to somebody on the phone that I called who also played guitar. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? Because I was like, well, it's B-E-A-D. So, I mean, it's drop B, it's 4 flats or whatever. So I'd used my tuner and I dropped it to 4 flats. It was 100% wrong. Wasn't even close, So I'd play with the recording and I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong? I'm following the tab and whatever. And I was on the phone with my buddy Matt. I can't remember his last name,
That's
but
okay.
he told me, he was like, dude, you just drop the top string and then you tune it like a regular. I was like, oh, yeah, cool. And then I tuned it right, and I was like, oh, this is way better. You know what I mean?
There's
Like,
no reason like to feel bad. The last band I played in, our singer's cousin, great guitar player, and he only plays in drop. But because he plays in drop, he calls that standard. That is not standard.
No.
So whenever I'd say, yeah, we're playing in drop, he'd be like, drop. So then he'd tune it to standard. And we start playing. I'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? He's all like, we're playing in drop. And I said, no, EAD is standard. DAD is drop.
Right.
And he's like, it's the other way around. I was like, no, fuck Tart. Come on, man.
No, it's not, man. You need to get up on your YouTube tutorial. Tutorials? What the fuck? Tutorials. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I started playing, and I've been playing guitar ever since. I kind of started dabbling a little bit and learning how to do the drums because I wanted to figure out how to record my own stuff. Picked up a bass. Matter of fact, bro played one for one of our shows. The Yamaha I got. And the bass is just, not having those other two strings for some reason makes it feel like it's so much easier. You know?
Right.
But it's not. I mean, if you're
No.
really a good bass player, then you're focused more on the groove of the song. You're complementing the other instruments.
Right.
Not to say that you're not. I'm just I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it wasn't really what I was focused on. I was still
You're
writing.
just not Cliff Burton yet.
Yeah, I
Right.
was still writing like lead tracks with
Or
my
probably
bass,
will
and
never
it
be.
just it didn't fit.
Don't
It
say
made the
that.
song like a mess.
Right.
If you think about it,
but-
you got 4 strings, not 6. It's actually harder.
Yeah.
Right.
You
not
got to
only
do
just-
more with what.
Especially in the music we play.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
not only
like-
that, just your calluses too. I remember a friend of mine who got me into Metallica. I learned how to play battery, and just that dun 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 dun. Just that on guitar when you start out is so hard. Your hand starts to cramp up.
Right.
Then you play bass, and you play that part.
And the strings
and
are thicker. You
now
have to
your
put more pressure.
fingers are in so much pain because of how thick they are. So by the time I got done playing that song, I was like, fuck yeah, I played it. What now? I could not play the next 3 days because I
Right.
wore out my fingers. And it was like, okay, so this isn't as easy as it seems. And then I go back and I was listening to Call of Cthulhu the other day, and you listen to all of Cliff's little riffs in between the actual guitar riffs with that wah and distortion. You're like, holy shit. This is amazing. I did not realize that was his bass.
Right.
Just like when everyone hears For Whom the Bell Tolls, all guitar players who start off play that intro.
Yeah, but
And
it's
then-
on bass.
That's Cliff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all
Yeah.
the guitar or the bass players, like the one, I was playing that lead at church. Yeah, and the bass player
You're
got
playing
me
that
into
damn
Metallica.
devil music.
Yeah, and freaking the bass player, the one who got me into Metallica, is the one who got me into that youth band.
Right.
And he looks at me, and he's like, and he comes up to me and whispers to me, "What the fuck are you doing? That's the bass part. Don't ever play that again." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was like, "I didn't know." He's like, "Well, of course you wouldn't know. It's distorted."
We only
Right.
have a very few moments of shining. You cannot steal them.
Right, yeah, yeah.
When I get my time in the limelight, goddammit.
Yeah,
you need
he
to
just
keep
got
it
a
in my
fretless
limelight.
bass too, so he's all like showing it off, and then I play that part. He's like,
Yeah.
and then right after that, I played the intro for Schism, which is also by bass, and he looks at me and doesn't say things. I'm
not
like,
you,
I'm
dude."
sorry. He's like, that's not how you play. I was like, well, how do you play the guitar part? He's like, you looked up the bass part, but not the guitar part. I was like, I'm sorry.
It's the cool part, man.
Yeah. But okay, so then what? Actually, anything musically, bands or anything that got you?
That like inspired me to
Yeah.
really kind of get into more distorted guitar and everything.
Yeah.
I was a Metallica metalhead from like almost since birth. My dad like was really into Metallica. He had Master of Puppets and and Justice for All and stuff. And he tells me some stories of when I was like 4 and he was trying to teach me how to headbang, and like I was all about it. Like from like the second I heard it, I was like, yes, I will headbang forever, And
have
because I'm
joined the
not
Legion.
blessed with the dancing gene, if though
Right.
Yeah,
some
I
of
have
those
the
people
same
know
issue.
that
Dude, you
there's
just-
like,
you just
oh,
have
I
the
like
white
to
man
dance.
dance.
No, I danced full cracker ass, and it's just not, I can't, I don't dance well.
All you got is the white man dance.
Exactly. I did shopping cart,
Just
uh,
bobbing your head, man.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
So like headbanging, it was just a different like that. The aggression in the music always attracted me, and really got into the heavier stuff. When
Right.
I was in high school, I was playing football, and we were pumping weights and just getting after it one day. And Jesse Campos, who unfortunately has passed. I think he was in a car accident or something. But condolences to the family if they're listening. But he played Slipknot's self-titled album on the system in the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, the growly vocals, I was like, I don't know if I dig this.
Yeah.
But over time, like just getting in the in the weight room, just throwing the weights around, just all that
Right,
aggression
yeah.
it gave me. And then I started using it on Iowa was my next album to really kind of click.
good album.
Yeah. And I was using it before football games, just like I would listen to Disaster Piece almost
a good way to go.
ritualistically, before the football game started, and it would just make me want to go out there and just tear somebody's fucking head off, and I just kind of kept it. And the weird thing is a lot of people get more aggressive with that, but it focuses me, and a lot of times it will actually bring my aggression down.
But that's for most people,
so-
I think, who actually listen to metal. Wouldn't you guys agree? In my opinion, it helps me calm down instead of actually get angry. It's only some kind of music that if I'm angry, it helps keep it there. But with that, it helps kill it off as soon as it's done.
Oh, yeah, they've
I've
done-
never had music make me angry. The language of music has always been calming to me.
Right, it
And I've been a
speaks to you.
metalhead since forever. So
yeah, you're
going
like
to
me.
Iron
If
Maiden,
I'm
Judas
angry-
Priest concerts when I was a kid, and everyone there was angry. They were breaking shit and busting
Right.
people up and fighting, and I was like, what is wrong with you guys, man? This is so amazing. How
Right.
can you be mad right now?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, this is just amazing.
Right.
Well, they've done a lot of studies on it, and metalheads tend to be some of the calmer, more well put
Right.
together people out there.
Really?
Yeah.
It gives you an outlet for
Are you sure
For
you're
your
not
aggression?
reading studies just to make yourself feel better?
What?
Are you sure you're
No,
not reading
I-
studies just to make yourself feel better?
It's Dr. Shock over there.
I agree.
PhD
I had a few
metal.
friends who were just Beatles and rock fans, like old rock fans. They wouldn't listen to like the Guess Who or anything like that. It was all the mellow stuff. They wouldn't even listen to any things from the Beatles that you could sit there and nod your head a little more to than just normal. And they would bounce off the fucking walls. It was nuts. It was like, you don't listen to my type of music, and you're going nuts.
Right.
And I'm calm and listen to what I listen
Right.
to.
Well, and you see that a lot with the country western crowd as well.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Once they get a few beers in them, they want to fight right away. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like,
Rock Jam
Well,
is
'cause
one of
their
those
wife
places I
left
felt
and
the
their dog
safest.
died.
A
Yeah, I
massive
agree.
Rock festival. Country Jam, there's an insane amount of brawls
Yeah.
every year.
Yep.
and
Oh,
it could be the music. Who knows? You know,
Right.
it just depends on. I think it's a lot to do with your personality too.
I
you know
agree.
what I mean? But
Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that's what gets you in the metal too, is just
Right.
your personality. Because for me, like you were saying, it doesn't make me angry. But if I am in an angry mood, that's my first go-to, what I listen to. But that usually calms me
Centers
down.
you, yeah.
Especially if I just sing along to it, especially stuff like Demon Hunter, Slipknot, and I do those growl vocals, because I get that emotion right out immediately.
Right.
And then it's gone.
Yeah, that's a different kind of metal. You
Yeah.
guys, you guys are a lot younger than I am. That,
Yeah.
quite honestly, Slayer was over the top for me back then, because
still-
I know.
just their first
but
two albums.
That the aggression of that to me was anger and hatred, and I never
Yeah.
got into that. Like you can listen to every single Iron Maiden's tune, and there's no anger.
Right.
But there are songs that are all about mean, angry things.
Right.
But the music itself is not trying to portray. They tell stories. It's a little bit different. Like I couldn't listen to Godsmack. I mean, when
Yeah.
it first came out, I was like, no, that's bad, that's bad. And it, like Mike said, it kind of grows on you.
Yeah.
But I couldn't put it in my arsenal, even at this moment. Most of the stuff you guys listen to is over the top for me,
Well, for
because
me-
it's just different. Like the origins of
Yeah.
metal are gone.
No, I agree. And I think
That's why I
that's
like this
what-
band, actually,
right,
because
yeah,
you get off
I
on.
agree.
I bring some of those origins to your music.
Right.
You're like,
And
oh,
we
I love
have
your old
those
school
origins
feel.
too, yeah.
And at first, I was like, old school, man. Why do you guys always gotta fucking say
Because they
that?
kind of just
Like,
killed it.
what
I
the
mean, because
fuck?
we've been talking a lot how, no offense to Five Finger and Godsmack, like you were saying, but they kind of created this hard rock genre with this metal, fast-paced feel.
Right.
And then the
But no
media
vocal.
just kind of decided to run with it, and they made a killing off of it. Does that
Ah,
mean
it's every other-
Godsmack and Five Fingers bad? No. But it's what all the girls like. I mean, all the
That's
girls I know
every
are into
music
it.
that ever it happens like that. We were just playing Motley Crue, just
Yeah.
fooling around.
It's all about
every time
tits and
that
beer.
whole LA band nonsense. I mean, I was in high school when that was happening.
Right.
Rat,
right.
Motley
hate
Crue.
Rat.
All of
it was
those-
like, what the fuck? Every one of these bands had good musicians in it.
Right.
Right.
But it was the poorest fucking me. I was like, this is the worst.
Like
music.
Poison.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And one day I get
Perfect
Queensryche's
example.
EP.
Dude.
And I heard Queensryche,
Queensryche
and I
is
was like,
bomb.
I can't
Yeah.
even listen to these other idiots.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I
because
do
they're
not
actually
listen to
writing
LA
music.
glam
It
bands
wasn't
anymore.
like because the whole point of the LA glam bands and Poison in their documentary will even admit it. They weren't playing music to write music.
No, it was about
They
making
knew
money.
that they could get sex
Mhm.
and drugs.
Drugs and money.
And that
Yep.
was it. That was the whole point of writing the music. Same thing with Rat. Rat was the ending product of the 80s hair metal bands.
Tell me that isn't what happened with rap.
No, I
Not
agree.
rap.
Rap.
All
No, I agree.
music. When it makes it. I would say there's an exception in that business with Eminem.
Yeah.
He never
There are
sold
others,
out.
but yeah, if they're
You
if
know-
they're inspired by Eminem or Tupac or some of the guys
so
that paved
that's
that
the
way,
thing.
yeah,
I'm never as impressed with that. It's
Yeah.
to be the first guy.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like watching some guy cover Yngwie Malmsteen, not that impressive.
No.
Watching Yngwie Malmsteen play Yngwie Malmsteen, you're like,
right.
Who the
Yeah.
hell can
I
play
mean,
guitar
after a
like
while,
that?
it's kind of like
You know?
Dragon Force. We're just like, okay.
Yeah,
But still, the
to
first time you
copy
see it, you're
is
like,
nowhere
oh my
near
gosh.
as difficult
Yes.
as to create it. You know what I mean? So I wish the music business, God, the way the music business changed, the way we're doing music right now, using the internet as a base for everything, has changed music completely. But it hasn't changed the quality. It's actually degraded it.
Yes.
Because now there's just about everything, which on the surface sounds wonderful, but that means you got to weed through everything to find anything.
There's a sea of garbage.
It is a sea of garbage. It's really difficult to deal with. It's finding good music is very difficult. And then
Right.
what the mainstream people decide is going to be the music
Right.
is not,
Well,
if
it's
it's
a-
not what I like, then
Yeah.
it's not even on the radio.
Well, it's
which-
kind of just a sad thing all the way around because with the record industries dying, they want a certain sound like Five Finger and everything that they know is going to make money. They don't want to try anything new. But on the other side, since we have the internet to be able to do like what we're doing, you find, like you're saying, a lot of artists who are coming up with great ideas, but it's shit quality.
Right, because they don't have the professional backing or whatever.
Right.
And from a business standpoint, you got to kind of sympathize a little bit with the record. Well, you don't have to, I guess.
No.
But there's a purpose behind their decision making. You know what I mean? It's a business decision. If they're going to put $10 million into somebody, like they're going to do what works. And then after you've proven yourself to be able to do what works, like one of the interesting stories in the music industry that I really found fascinating was Pink's story. Like her first album was pure all the record company's decision. She had no free reign on that at all. And then her second album, Misunderstood, I believe it is, she said, I want to do my own thing. And the record company at first told her, fuck you, no. And she just fought like tooth and nail. She's like, no, I want to do my own thing, or I'd rather just go solo and try to make it on my own. And they out of whatever reason, they gave her the opportunity to do her thing. And fortunately for her, it worked. And she's been very true to herself the whole time, and that's why I envy her. You know what I mean? Like, but that's not the case for everybody. More often than not, you're doing what the record company wants you to do. It's their bidding.
It's a catch-22, man. The demise of the record company is going to be the demise of quality music.
Yeah.
Potentially.
They have the money to make the music good.
That's because it's just like the film industry. People can go to school for film, but as soon as they get done going to school, you find out the film industry doesn't care that you've gone to school. It's about who you know and where you're at.
It's a lot about networking.
Same thing with the music. It's not about going to school. It's about who you know. So when you actually go in to learn from people who actually do producing and stuff, it's usually most of the time just whatever they want. You're not actually learning anything until you're there a while, which I think is pretty sad.
Right.
You pretty much have to learn everything like what we're seeing now online, which is why it's so bad, just people learning themselves, but they don't know how to do it right.
I just wish there was a filter. I don't have a problem with anybody trying to be creative and artistic. I do it every day. Get told by my family, hey, why don't you grow up a little and pay attention to some adult type things. But there's got to be a filter because there is no real filter on the web. So while you're trying to find entertainment, TV is dying also.
Right.
Right.
We spend more time on the web trying to find ways to entertain ourselves. And as I'm looking for good entertainment, there's no TV guide. On TV, you go to the guide, you find out what's on. If you look, it's got 4 stars, you go look at that. If it's got a good rating for TV, you go look at that. On the internet, there's no rating. There's no like this. No one tells you whether it's good or not. Just because it has 11 million views does not mean it's good.
Right. You got to look at the likes, dislikes.
You got to look at the likes compared to the dislikes. But when you look at YouTube, when you look at a video, the first thing you see is the video name, the channel name, and the amount of views. So then you base what you want to watch off by those views, and then you actually decide whether or not it's any good by actually watching it.
That's what's whacked for me is that it's hard to find, looking at numbers of views, it's hard to find quality entertainment anyway.
Right.
People will watch anything.
Yeah, I agree.
And it almost seems as if the shittier it is,
the more
interesting it is.
Yeah, everybody wants Sharknado.
This is interesting. This is funny. This is doofus. It's like, well, God, I don't know. At one point, my intellect kicks in, and I need something a little more
stimulating,
substantial. Yeah, something. Yeah, And honestly, it's when you guys did what you did last week to the metronome, and I could hear that. I'm like, oh my God, now I can sit down and I can write these. I can put vocals on from here, and put it back up there. I'm like, I've been wanting to do this since 2004. I was in a band for a short period of time in 2004 and 2005. Brought my computer, got it all set up. Going to go for that exact thing because we really could make good music without, we have a filter. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and like this is my third attempt at a band. My first attempt was with a buddy in the Navy.
That's like a new bicycle.
Right. But like my first attempt was with my buddy in the Navy. His name is Troy Bauman, and I actually have pitched some of the ideas that we came up with to the band, and it seems like we like it. Like I don't know when we'll end up doing some of the songs or whatever, but I played some of the stuff that I've got that we wrote together, and it seemed to get good response. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just we moved out to Oregon, and he started going to college, and I kind of unfortunately I stopped seeing him a little bit. He was real busy, and it just kind of fell apart. And well, a lot of other factors too. But that was a big one where we weren't really making any progress. And I was like, why am I in Oregon? I don't know anybody here. I don't know anybody in Portland. You know what I mean? So that kind of fell out, and I came back
You
here.
can relate, right?
Yeah. Well, I came back here and I
very
tried
much
with another group of friends at Big O Tires. Just a handful of guys over there. Most of them had never really played the instrument that they were on.
That's how it
much
works,
before.
though, usually when you're trying to get a band together.
Yeah.
For me, it was always, you had another guitar player or bass player or singer, and then you had to find people who were willing to actually learn an instrument to play.
Yeah, and we didn't get any gigs or anything, but we were making progress. So not quite what I was after, but we were making progress. We were moving forward, and everybody changed jobs. We had some people kind of shift around on us, and it just broke up. It fell apart. You know what I mean? And we kind of stumbled upon this opportunity, like you guys talked in the last podcast. Most of us were working together, and Susan said, "You're going to play at my party," and we went, okay. And it ended up working, and we kind of had a little bit of chemistry, making music and playing easy
Can you
stuff.
even imagine that we have to explain that?
Yeah.
We have to tell people that this band came from Susan.
Right. Yeah, just out of nowhere, right?
Imagine
Like,
that,
yeah.
like just for a moment, the seed of that started in Susan's head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not ours.
Well, I had no
Definitely
idea
not
the
mine.
musical
That was later.
tastes of what we were playing. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea that she'd be into what we were doing, And,
We didn't have what we were doing. What it was like.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were, like you
I
said.
was
I
like,
mean,
you want us to? Who's them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, you can play with the other mics.
Right. Exactly. We didn't know each other.
Who's
We
the
didn't
mics?
Shock and I had talked a couple of times. I talked probably bro the most out of
Yeah.
everybody involved in this
That's
at the
funny, it was the
time.
same for
He
you,
didn't
too.
even play a stringed instrument yet.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I had just barely
never picked up a
started.
bass before, and that's
See,
just
that's
kinda
what I'm
all-
saying, though. There's always one person in the band who's like, hey, you want to be in a band? I don't play anything. Yeah, here you go.
Dude,
Try it
that's
out.
exactly how it happened to me.
Yeah.
I was in the Commons in high school. I was a metalhead. That's what I listened to. So I grew my hair out, wore leather. I'm in the Commons in high school, and some kid comes up to me. He's got leather on. He's got long hair. He's like, hey, dude, you want to be in a band? I said, I can't play nothing. He said, well, you got long hair. You look good. You could probably learn how to sing.
Right.
I was like, all right.
why
fuck
not?
it."
Yeah.
You know what he said to me that made me say yes? There's a lot of girls.
Right.
And
Right.
I was in
It's
the
always the
Commons
first
with the
thing.
dudes. So I was like, oh, all
Right.
right. This kid's
Right,
name
you're a
was
kid,
Alan.
you know what I mean? Like, you're like, fuck, yes, I want some poontang. You know
So
what I mean? Like, you're all about
the
that.
next guy we talked to is a Randy Rhoads fanatic. This kid was an amazing guitar player. His name was Ryan Rhoads.
Nice.
It was
Go
nuts,
figure.
dude. It was nuts. This dude was so good. We won like several battles of the bands in the first month we were together because this kid would
Fantastic.
just go up there and everyone's
Nothing
like,
else needed. There you
Right.
go, yeah.
Just shred
that's
up
how it
there.
happens. Next thing you know, I'm in a band and it's working and everybody likes it and it's like, wait, like 3 months ago, I was just thinking about, never thought about being in a band. Honestly, just
Right.
Well, yeah, but when you think about the history of bands, there's very few, like Led Zeppelin, where you hear Jimmy Page just went out and said, "Hey, I want you, 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 and you.
Right.
That's my band, and that's gonna work."
That's what
It's
Paul and
usually
George did,
always-
though.
Yeah, it's usually
how the
just something
Beatles
like
happened.
brothers or family who are
Right.
playing in a band. And
Well,
then they find
Hailstorm
other
is
people.
mostly the entire family. It's like
Right.
3 members of the family and a dude they found.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
AC/DC, Van Halen, the
AC/DC,
list
Van
goes
Halen,
on.
Yeah, the list goes on. And the only band that didn't make it that had brothers was Dire Straits.
Oh, they made it.
No, that didn't get along.
Oh.
Ah, okay, I see your
The
point.
other
did not
guitar player to the
survive.
singer left because their singer kept taking all the credit, even though he wasn't the only one writing the songs.
Right.
But anyway, other than that, you realize that a lot of it's usually just this. I don't know who this dude is. Kind of like Metallica, with them finding their ads in the paper and then just joining up and then finding other people that they don't know
And making it work.
and making it work.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least we knew each other. We didn't know each other well, but we knew each other. We knew of each other, I guess.
only
would be
knew
the
each
first-
I didn't know of
That's
any
where
of you
to put it.
guys.
Yeah.
I literally had no idea.
I'd
that-
spoken to you once, and
We
I'm
did-
sure I didn't leave
Really?
an impression. Yeah.
Where were we?
It was,
Dick's
I don't remember.
no, yeah, it was just very brief. I was selling my, for my fucking college assignment for small business, I was selling my candy bars and shit. And, yeah, I talked to you for like 45 seconds. It wasn't like a long time.
At
We didn't have,
work?
like a full, yeah. You came down, you were
changing
talking to
shifts?
Jesse and stuff, and I was changing shifts, I was getting everything ready. Yeah. And that's the only interaction I had with you. That was it. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, Susan had never even heard me sing. I don't even know where she got the idea.
Someone
I
must
think
have told
Jesse
her.
told
She just
her.
literally came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to sing with these other guys at the party? I'll talk to them." I was like,
Sure.
My understanding is it came from Jesse.
Yeah,
"Oh, really?"
that's how I heard about it.
That would explain like when I actually came in the first time to listen to you guys during the rehearsal, why it was so.
It was sporadic. It was all over the place. Yeah. Well, like Shock said, I mean, we were playing Wicked Game. We were playing Green Day songs.
Dude,
and
I think we should
you
go
know,
back to Wicked. That was a good song.
It was. It was a good song. I think we could do something real special with it with the group of guys that we have on this. I really do.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yes,
But
I would.
you'd asked last time about favorite bands, and I can't pick one now. Like for a while I was in the Navy, like it was Trivium and All That Remains, like constantly on my playlist. And since I got out of the Navy, I've been all over the place. Like I listen to a little bit of everything, and I don't just say that because it's cool to say that. I know some
Everybody
people
says that, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, some people like think if they say that you're like they're like more interesting. You know,
Smart.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's not why. I actually do listen to a little bit of everything. Like I listen to some classical stuff. Matter of fact, if we end up getting to the song at the end of this, you got after talking about what inspired me to play music,
If
you're
we
like,
can actually do it, yeah.
yeah, you're gonna be like, what the hell is this? And I'm gonna be like, I don't know. I thought it was cool. You know what I mean? Like that's all it's gonna be. And
That's what it is, though.
Shame.
Music is a
Yeah.
language, man, and everyone deciphers it differently. It's the only universal language.
exactly.
It is. Notes, I mean, the theory doesn't change. It's
Yeah.
there. And you don't have to understand the theory to understand the language.
Right.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
that's
It's just
why-
something your soul
Yeah,
feels.
it's only
so-
when you
and
understand
it's
the
an individual
language.
thing.
Right.
That's
Well-
the most amazing thing about it is I could say
Uh-huh.
any sentence to you, the sky is gray in English. You guys all understand English. There's no way to interpret that any other way than the sky is gray.
Right.
But I could play an E, A, G chord progression, and he could turn around and play the same chords, and I'm feeling the chords the way I played them, and he's feeling the chords the way he played them. It's the same language,
Right,
but,
but you
it
feel it a
means
little
something different to your soul than it does to other people. That's why I like the amalgamation of what we do.
Right.
You know, like you guys have the heavier background, and I know on the surface it sounds like I'm all about metal, but I'm going to be 50 next Friday, and I'm really not all about metal anymore. My
Half a
music
century.
world has changed drastically. So, yeah, I know. Old
Dick
school.
statements over there.
So, but because of that,
It's a good mark to hit.
it's
Don't worry about it. It's a good thing. for your
it's
life.
I couldn't pick one kind of thing. So if we were only going to do one kind of thing, I would have lost interest a long time ago.
I would have lost interest.
You know what I
even.
mean?
can't
Like the
stick with
fact
one
that
thing,
the
and I'm
first
youngest
5
one here.
songs we wrote were all really good. It was like, what? Like, where the
very
hell did that
different.
come from? It's very different. And then all of a sudden, the 6th and 7th weren't like the first 5, which was important to me because the first 5 were very much like each other.
Yeah.
And then we got to number 6 and number 7. I'm like, wait, this is different. That's because while we were in this room, we just started playing something.
Yeah.
And it fell
You
together.
started,
Yeah.
then you started, then you started, then you started, then I started, and then all of a sudden we're like, hey, that's a song. We just
Right.
Yeah.
that happened in like 5 minutes. I'm like, well, that's only 5 minutes long. That was pretty quick.
Give
We
it a
pulled a
few
Tenacious
years.
D on that one. Where he was
Give
like,
it a few
next
years.
song.
Don't worry about it. Give it a
But
few
that's why
years,
I
and
like-
everybody's gonna be like, "Dude, why can't you write songs anymore?"
right.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because that's you overthink it. You know what I mean? Like that particular moment, we were literally almost like in the music store tuning.
Yeah.
We just started playing stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what's neat is
Turned a sound check into a song is what
Yeah,
it did.
yeah, that's what it did.
We're gonna lose our way. Have to come back to the pillow fort just to get back.
Hey,
the
that's all
pillow
right.
fort.
Come back to the pillow fort.
That's the best ever, man.
Right.
The pillow fort.
Yeah.
Everyone wants one of these. This is as good as
It's
the
amazing.
walkie-talkies.
Right. Well, as you know, kind of like Connors was saying, it's a universal language. This is why whether you're listening to something, you don't even need to understand the language it's being sang in to feel something from.
Right.
It. You know what I mean? Like I'm into
Happens to me all the
Rammstein.
time.
Yeah, I'm into baby metal, which is like what the hell? It's like J-pop and metal music.
Yeah, it's
like,
in
put
Japanese. I
together.
don't have
And
a clue what
love
they're
it.
fucking saying, but it's
love
awesome.
it.
Dude, I heard a guy doing a Middle
Anime
Eastern
soundtracks, dude, like all the
song
time.
on Coverium, and he's Middle Eastern. I have no idea what he was saying, but the chord progressions and the amazing vocal harmonies in that music type blew my mind. That I had to write a
Right.
comment. I was like, man, I have no idea what you were singing about.
Same with some
But
Thai
that
stuff.
language drew me in. I watched the whole video.
It's kind of like Rammstein. I mean, no one has a clue what they're saying.
Yeah. Most people, yeah.
but everybody loves it. That's because it sounds great.
Right. Well, you're right, though. I mean, like, and it's funny because the people who understand German are like Rammstein's trash. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't understand
I
German,
mean, other than the ones who like them. I mean, have you seen their Berlin
exactly,
show?
exactly. But if like the
they're actually a
mainstream,
rip-off of Accept.
yeah, in the mainstream of Germany,
They just sing in German.
not a fan.
Accept was German. They sang in English.
Yeah.
Did it better.
right.
They did it better.
The Hammer does it better, Mike. The Hammer does it better.
Yeah,
it's a
the
fact.
Hammer. Oh, that's what they call his headbanging.
Right.
The hammer, Till Lindemann.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my thing. Sorry to kill the fucking mood with my comment or whatever I did, because it got wicked silent here.
Oh, you're good. Well,
But-
what would you say is probably your most influential musician that actually made you want to play metal?
I would have to probably, if I had to pick, I would have to say James Hetfield.
Same.
Yeah. And it was really because when you listen to the documentaries and why he decided to play guitar and sing, he just couldn't pick one. So he was like, I'm going to do both, and it's kind of the same reason I started to try to figure out how to do both. And I've only been playing guitar for a few years. Like I said, I started probably in 2005, and I didn't know anything. And over time, I just started learning to do some more stuff, which is why when we did that first show, we were doing stuff like Green Day or just simple stuff where, I could at least harmonize or sing with Connors over the top.
Overcomplicated the fuck out of everything.
Yeah, that's when we all got together and decided we're going to change all the things. We'll keep the main riff, and then everything else will be different. You know what I mean? Whatever makes that song signature is what we kind of
What do you mean we? I was just following, man. I don't make any of those decisions.
Yes, you do.
What are you
This
talking
is
about?
a band thing. Don't exclude yourself.
No, I think you do. I mean, like with what we did with Beat
Not
It. I
back
mean,
then.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But when we first started.
Oh no, yeah. When we were first starting, we just kind of
Just played
was,
whatever the hell we could get through.
Yeah,
you
we
know?
had
If we could
6
get to the end of the
rehearsals.
song, we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
we overcomplicated Born to Be Wild, and yet we made it more simple than the original version.
Yeah, exactly.
We overcomplicated Breaking the Law, which is one of the easiest songs by Judas Priest.
Yeah.
And we made it more complicated, but we can actually play it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah, but
something
it's
that we
cool.
kind of developed
Yeah, I
into.
agree.
Yeah, but like you said though, when we were first starting out, it was just like whatever we could get through, and it was just me, Connors, bro, and Shock, and it was 4 mics. There was no Josiah yet. We contemplated making our band name or 4M or something like that. It was gay. It's stupid, but whatever. We ended up going with a different name, and we stumbled upon our South 6 name just from the name of the street corner
the
over
other one
here.
was
and it worked.
Split Shift.
Yeah, we started.
Oh,
we
yeah.
did Split
I
Shift.
forgot all about Split
and
Shift.
That's
found
what
out
we
a band
started
out of
as, was
Boston
Split
had
Shift.
it. Yeah, and then we had to switch it.
Yeah.
There was the cleaning crew.
I threw that one out there, and
The
nobody,
cleaning crew.
not everybody was enthusiastic about that name
We
as
should
I
have
was.
stuck with it.
Can you think
Sounds
of
like
like
you
the
can go
music we
alongside
played
the
out, the
Village
cleaning
people.
crew?
It could work. I don't know, shit. We just got to
know,
make
what
the
the fuck
cover
is
art.
Blink
make sense.
182?
What,
I mean,
what are they
why-
even
why does
cleaning
it have to
up to? We're
matter?
pushing out the old type of music.
They were
What
reading
are
a
you kidding?
dictionary when they came up with that, and one of the
Blink
dudes just said,
182?
you blink 182 times in like in an hour or something like that, and they're like, that's a good band name. It was just
Blink
random.
182.
Yeah.
That's some funny shit. That's what happened to us. We're like, what do you think? We were actually
Yeah.
discussing.
Bro looked over
we
at
were
the street
discussing at
corner.
that moment what Lauren
Yeah.
would think.
It was-
You're
although-
like, I don't know. What would Lauren think? And, like that came out of your mouth, and he went, "How about South 6?"
You know
Yeah,
what the funny
he just
thing is,
pointed out
though?
the
Like,
street
what?
side.
The funny thing is, though, is that all of us were facing away except
Except
for
him,
He was
yeah.
the
Yeah.
only one looking that
That's got to be our
direction.
first album cover, man. That sign.
That's fine.
Just
Right.
that sign. Not us. Just that.
South
Right.
6, no reason, just listen to the fucking album.
Yeah, just listen to it, bitches. We don't call our fans bitches unless they deserve it.
Maggots.
That's what Slipknot fans are
Yeah,
called.
I
They
know.
seem to love it,
Maggots.
man. So
Well,
all
they got
about
their
owning
name,
the
though, because
title.
whenever they play live and all those people bouncing up and down, because you're from a distance up top, the illusion, it does look like just
There's a bunch of maggots
up on
kind of
top,
rolling around.
moving
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how they got the name, and everybody's like, okay, this is the 90s, so
right.
Marilyn Manson, everybody likes the contradiction, so.
Right, right. Well, just to kind of go back to what inspired me, because I have a tendency to scatterbrain and move us all over
we
the
do
place.
that.
Really?
We all do that, but I'm the worst. Let's be honest.
That's why we went with you first.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, James Hetfield, listening to him, talk about his riff writing and how he decided he wanted to sing with that too. That was a real big influence on me. Vocally, I'm very inspired by like Bon Jovi and Corey Taylor, 2 completely different worlds, but
My
they
respect
do
for
inspire
you
me.
with Bon Jovi just went down.
I don't care, dude.
Oh, come off it.
I
dude.
like Bon
Fuck
Jovi,
that.
bro.
I don't
I grew up with
Iconic songs.
Yeah, my parents were 80s
Iconic
metalheads,
songs.
and like I listened to hair metal a lot and stuff, because that's what my dad was into, and it's just what I listened to. And I understand like some people hate Bon Jovi, but that fucker can write a song. One way or the other, you have to admit that he's at least a good songwriter.
It's the same as Springsteen. Like, I can't really listen to Springsteen, but he has
That's
just.
funny.
I don't know why. It just doesn't sit well with
Yeah.
me, and it's not some of my favorite music. But the man wrote songs that people bought into.
Yeah.
John Bon Jovi could write lyrics that made the regular, everyday guy or girl say,
I understand that.
Yeah, and even the
You know
Young
what I mean?
Guns soundtrack, which was him solo with like a guitar player that he picked up from somewhere that finger picked. It's just that whole album's good. Like Billy Get Your Guns and some of that stuff. I started singing, like learning how to sing by singing karaoke in Japan. Like I'd never really sang before. I'd always thought that I could, but I never really got serious into trying to figure out how to do anything. You know.
And mine was
with the-
screaming vocals. So.
Well, yeah, I did that. I started learning, because when you're in Japan, you get. I've talked with you guys about this, but maybe some people who've never been to Japan.
I was going through voice change, so I had no other choice.
Right. But you get your own booth in Japan. You go into your own sound isolated booth. You get to control the whole karaoke system. You can pick whatever the hell you want, and they have a whole shitload of songs. So we'd be doing like Bullet for My Valentine, Slipknot, Godsmack. I did Lost Prophets a lot. So it was all over the place, just whatever we could find to sing. And I just started to learn how to scream that way. I started doing Slipknot. I did Disaster Pieces, believe it or not, in a karaoke booth in Japan. And I felt I crushed it. Whether I did or not, I don't care. I loved it, And
That's all that matters.
when I finished, my buddy was like, "Nice job, Corey." And I was like, "Fuck you, Troy. It was awesome." Because I modeled my screaming voice a lot after Corey Taylor's because I have a similar growl. And then my singing voice, I do have a bit of a natural rasp when I put it when
Same.
So Bon Jovi just seemed to be a good influence on that, because it was controlled, but there's some rasp in it. But guitar wise, I was never really drawn to like the virtuosos. I love listening to them play. Steve Vai, Michelangelo Baitio, however you say his last name, my guy was Kirk Hammett. It was very Metallica influenced, and I just decided, I want to play metal, and I started listening to Killswitch Engage, which is why, as Josiah said, I'm very metalcore with my stuff.
Well, they're a mix.
Yeah.
They're not just metalcore. They took hardcore
Right.
and mixed it in, which is why their choruses are so memorable.
Right,
Because
'cause they do change a lot.
That's the
They get very
niche
melodic
of
and
hardcore is that big, slow, open chorus for everybody to join in, kind of like Iron Maiden does, but with that metalcore
right.
feel. Just
And
full
before I'd ever heard anything like that was the kind of music I wanted to play. Like it was a mixture of influences from what I listened to. Like I wrote some songs when I was 19 that had elements of like Arch Enemy and fucking Yellow Card in the same song. You know what I mean? Like in Atreyu I got into a little late, but my buddy made me listen to some, and like at first I just didn't dig it. It felt, I don't know, I thought it felt fake, at first.
Yeah.
And the more I listened to it, I'm like, these guys are badass. You know what I mean? Like, and I really kind of fell into them when I was in the Navy, started listening to Lead Sails and a Paper Anchor and some of the other stuff that was a little more mainstream, which is where they started losing fans. And I hate when that happens, because, bands got to make money if they're going to keep doing it. They have to. So they got to find a way to change their sound enough to where they can kind of keep some of their core fans, but at the same time inspire new fans to jump on the wagon and go with them. You know what I mean? Like, so I really enjoyed that album.
Well, I think there's just a big difference when it comes to that. You have people who actually sell out. I don't want to say Linkin Park, but when all of a sudden you change your sound to something that's modern,
So drastic.
to where it actually sounds like you just changed to the modern sound to actually make a buck because you had no idea what else to write.
Right.
Compared to, you think of the time with Korn, Slipknot. Slipknot, I don't really put in that new metal genre because it's so different.
I agree.
But it had that same groove feel.
Right.
And I think when people say, oh, they just sold out. No, I think there's a difference between selling out and actually creating something that people enjoy.
Right.
And it just was something people widely enjoyed.
Right.
Well, yeah, in order to stay alive, you have to evolve.
Well, yeah.
Look at
What is the purpose of the
thrash metal
entertainment
bands.
business?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. We were talking about, and we have talked about this before with Metallica, is that if they would have kept doing thrash the way they did their previous 4 albums before the Black Album and Load and Reload, people would have said, yeah, they're not going to make it a few other years until they adapt.
Right. Well,
Same
they
thing
cut their
with
hair, they changed their look and everything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And part of that might be because they grew up a little bit. Part of that might be, it was the thing to do. Who knows what their motivations were, but...
I don't really think it matters because it's like if they would have done the same thing, they would have died regardless because everybody would have been like, they're not changing. It's not the 80s anymore.
Right. Well,
But
they went the
because they
same
were
way as,
biggest band
unfortunately...
that was doing that. It
Yeah.
didn't matter because it was like, what are you doing?
Right. Well, like Queensryche, they had a falling out, and I loved Queensryche's music, and I still do. But they had a seriously long hiatus, and then I stumbled upon an album in like 2007 called The Tribe.
Yeah,
I
it's
bought it because it was Queensryche, purely because it was Queensryche. I
Right.
didn't look at anything. I didn't listen to anything. I found it at a freaking CD store that those are like dead. They don't exist anymore. I found it at a Tower Records in Japan and said, I'm gonna buy that, you know. And then I put it in my CD player, and it was different, but they were still trying to be Queensryche. You know what I mean? Like they were still trying to do what they do, and finally, what was it? Operation Mindcrime 2 came out in like 2010 or something,
Yeah.
like 30 years later or whatever. And it's still good, you know, it's still Queensryche, it's still interesting, but it's just not the same. Like the sound quality is very different. There's the little things that made Operation Mindcrime, in my opinion, a sheer work of art, a perfect story told through melodic, you know, music, wasn't there, you know, and it's still good, but they would have been screwed either way. They just decided to kind of stay with what they
the
do.
entertainment business.
Yeah.
How many actors? You guys know there are dozens. Look at Leonardo DiCaprio. Just won his first Academy Award. But how many good movies is the guy in?
Right.
A
You know what I
lot,
mean?
yeah.
But
I'm not a
it's
big
the way
fan,
it
but
is.
yeah.
You have peak performance a couple of times in your life if you're lucky.
Right.
And if you're really super lucky, somebody else gets to see you while you're having that peak performance. You know what I mean? But it's impossible. I agree with you about Operation Mindcrime. It was the beginning of the end.
Right.
I have 2 Queensryche tattoos. You guys know that's my band.
Yeah.
But I stopped listening to them. I didn't even buy Tribe. And it was because of Jeff Tate. He
I
could
always
only
said his
do
name wrong when I
one
was
thing.
younger. I said
Jeff
Geoffrey.
could only do one thing. He's doing it right now. He has his own solo project, and it's Jeff Tate. It's one thing. That band could have done something different. See, if that was the case with Mick Jagger, only able to do one thing, they would have died in the 60s.
Right, you gotta
maybe in the
pigeonhole himself.
70s. That guy is 75 years old. He's still performing now because he can do all things.
What's the same with
more
Ozzy
entertaining.
even? I mean,
Oh, my
even-
God.
yeah.
Ozzy's reinvented himself how many times?
Yeah. And
You
that song-
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you too, think about The Edge.
Bowie.
The guy had one sound, right? The Edge, the guitar player. What did that guy have? But how long did it last? Because every time they made a new album, they did something a little bit different. And
Exactly.
it was because their singer could do something with them. It's you guys have a fretboard.
Right.
You guys have a lot of choices on style because you have an instrument. But vocally, if you only work on one thing, if that's all you do,
Right.
after a while, your band is limited. And there's only so much you're going to be able to get away with because everything changes. It's the only constant in the universe, change. And in entertainment industry, it's like, what have you done for me lately?
You have to change often.
Oh, my God, it's
I
like
think it's a
all the
Winston
time.
Churchill quote, isn't it? Like, to be perfect is to change, or no, to grow is to change, and to be perfect is to change often, or something like that. It's one of those type of quotes.
That's
and-
pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, I think even just as someone who writes music, you get bored after a while doing the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, you hear many musicians who will talk about, yeah, I played, you know, let's take Metallica. If they played Master of Puppets and just that thrash album, the whole album, just nonstop every single year, they get tired of it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, you know, during 2010 or anything with the Big Four, they started adding more of their other songs back in. Was because, okay, we play all the same stuff all the time. Let's add stuff that we haven't played in a while that sounds like fun.
Right.
Voted by the band. And I think even with the way we write, you know, all the songs, you know, like you said, 5 of them are similar, the first 5, but they're still different in a way with how they're played.
Right.
They changed already. They were really only similar for the first few weeks.
Right.
And then as a band, we all put our own spice in the soup. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It was like, here's the recipe. And then we're like, all right, this is really good, but how, you know what? I like black pepper.
Yeah.
What
We're
if we
like,
add
"Oh,
this?
man, salt."
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, we're like, wow, this is the sickest recipe ever.
Yeah. Well, because it was, I had the original riffs for those 5 songs. I brought them in, and then I brought the extra riffs that I had with those songs in the format I thought it was going to be. And then I brought it in, and the more I played with you guys and heard our style,
The
it was
more it
like, this
changed.
isn't going to work this way. And we changed it and added a bunch of your parts and vocals and
Right.
some of Bro's ideas and Shock's ideas. And it was like, okay, now it's actually turning into something. It's not just my stuff. So that same original feeling of the sound is all there because of those 5 riffs. I wrote them all together without even actually finishing them as a song.
Right.
And then brought them in and we changed it as it needed to go.
It's
according
like
to
you
what
did
we
a
liked.
sketch on the canvas, and before you started doing any painting, you showed us the sketch.
Yeah. So
and
yeah,
he said, hey, what if we went with this color over in that corner? And you were like, hey, I hadn't thought about that. I was going to use that color over here.
Yeah.
But now that you mention it,
Yeah, it does
that
kinda work
color's
over
going to
there.
look good over
to
there.
better explain it,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's like I had 5 different sketches, all the same thing, the same idea,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because the way I played those riffs, you know, the beginning of the first song and all that, they're all kind of different than what you're used to hearing, which is what I wanted. I wanted something odd
Mm-hmm.
compared to what you're normally hearing in metal. And so it's like I took, like you were saying, a sketch, but I made 5 of the same exact beginning sketches. And then when we went through and actually worked together through it, all 5 of them turned out different colors, different end product.
Right.
I think that's the genius of music.
Well,
Yeah, I
yeah, and it's
agree.
been a lot of fun putting our styles together. I mean, like you pointed out in the last podcast, but you've done this, pointed out to me a lot of times when I'll write a riff, it's very metalcore.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me not to do that.
Right.
But, when I take something from your riff and I add a little bit of that metalcore flavor into it that I bring, it brings it to a different, it brings in a different element, and it seems to just complement each other really
I think
well.
it's
Yeah.
a mandatory thing. I don't think rock bands, metal bands make sense with one guitar.
Yeah.
Because then there's one idea with those 6 strings. But you guys play the same chord progression, but you don't play it the same way at all. And on the surface, that would sound like,
Right,
that
sound
doesn't
like it would
make
be a
sense.
mess.
That's
Yeah.
a mess. But it's the opposite. It's like, especially considering you're panned live, you guys are on each side of the stage, so it's really easy to hear that. But in the recording that you guys made last week, same thing. Like, it is so separate that
But it meshes
the little
so well that
intricacies,
when,
it
they're
was
played
like, wow,
together,
that
it
really
just is
sounds
like
awesome.
cool. Yeah, because
Yeah.
when I play my solo or I play something away from what you were playing, it sounds, it's me. It's a different guitar. But when we play together, the sound of how we have our tone is so well meshed together.
And it
how
just
we
has
play
to
it
happen
just
live.
fits.
You can't have leads without quality rhythm. And it was
Right.
one of the things,
Right.
one of my favorite bands growing up was Van Halen.
Yeah.
And it was the thing that upset me about their live performances was that the minute Eddie went to his amazing solo,
There was nothing in the back.
there was nothing there. Michael Anthony's bass riffs were very drum oriented. So he's
Which is
following the
common.
kick drum, very
Yeah.
common with that type of music, but
Just rock and metal in
without
general.
something else to boost up the flavor while the lead was going on, the lead was almost boring. I
Yep.
look more forward to Eddie being alone on the stage
Yeah.
than to actually watching Eddie play his leads, because the music is going along and all of a sudden something happens.
And I mean, he did write some songs that had no rhythm in the back, and those were the ones you were going, okay,
Uh-huh.
because this is the
Oh
same
yeah,
thing
the
of what
first
you're
2
used to
albums
hearing.
they
yeah.
didn't put in rhythm guitar tracks.
Right,
That's
yeah.
correct.
And I mean, there are some on there that did have the rhythm in the back, but like you're saying, yeah, you listen to that and you're like, okay, this doesn't sound right. Because I'm used to, we were talking about the exact same thing on the way here of how, like, Shock said how power metal is so well mixed together with the wall of sound. But then we were talking about the thing people don't realize, though, is there's always a third guitar added
Always.
of the writing process.
Always.
But there's
sometimes a
never
4th that
played
you don't even
live.
hear because
Right.
it's got no effect on it, and it's dry, and it's on the left or right side really quiet. It's only
Yes.
there to boost frequencies. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, so then you go live, and you either have to have the greatest sound guy on the planet, which most of them can handle it,
Yeah.
or is just something missing when
Yeah.
that comes.
It's just when you hear it live, though, that third guitar is gone, and they always, when it's played that way, because it's meant to comment the song and make
Yeah,
it
and
sound
the
better.
truth is,
and it's
live
gone.
is
So when
one
you hear
thing.
it, you're like,
Live, it comes and goes.
right.
When
Right.
you can play it back, rewind, play it back, rewind, play it back, you have to produce that so people will want to
Right.
rewind and play it back.
I think that's
so
why Rush
the
was
studio
so
is
good.
designed for that. Oh my God, I've seen Rush so many times. I never saw Rush not blow my mind. Like,
Yeah.
they were the same. Like in
Right.
the studio, you're like, holy shit, this is so amazing. Then you go see them live, and it's these 3 guys,
Yeah.
and somehow they make all that sound.
Well, it's like having 2 guitar players, So, for instance, most people don't realize as guitar players, when you try and learn Guns N' Roses, how different.
Oh yeah, the 2 parts.
Slash and
Oh, yeah.
Izzy are playing.
Oh, my God, it's
but
crazy.
it's commenting each other so well, you think it's the same thing,
Right.
but it's not. Like when I tried to play Slash's part for Welcome to the Jungle, I was like, this is fucking boring, and it's nothing like I thought it was going to be. I'm going to play Izzy's, and then you play Izzy's, and then you realize there are parts that Slash does that you hear, they're more prominent, and you like, and you're like, well, damn it, I
Right.
don't want to play this either.
Yeah.
So I think Geddy does that so well as a bass player that it is like having 2 guitar players
Well,
on
he's
stage.
also
'cause
using
when,
his feet. You know what
right.
I mean? The guy's
well, I mean,
got 2
even just with
instruments.
just his bass playing,
Keyboard.
he plays so well that as soon
Synthesizer,
as
it's amazing.
I didn't realize that's how they did that. That's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
He plays
Yeah.
it with his feet.
Yeah.
He uses pedals. He's
Wow.
fucking unbelievable.
But I
That's
think even
crazy.
without him playing the synthesizers and all, and just his bass, whenever
Uh-huh.
it does go into Alex playing a solo
Yes.
and it's just the bass, with the way he
Yes.
plays, it's so well done.
It's so true because if you looked at Iron Maiden in the same context, it would be really boring with one guitar,
Yeah.
even though Steve Harris is one of the most incredible bass players
Right.
ever.
That's 'cause he
But
writes all the
it-
rhythm
something
parts of the
what
song.
he's doing under the leads is not have anything to do with guitar.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if one of those guitars was to go away and you only had one, it would really not musically. I don't even know if it makes sense,
Yeah.
even though you got a crazy bass player.
Right. Let's bring it back a bit. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
I told you,
A
I
minute,
told you, I
hour and
fucking
14.
scatterbrain. But
But,
that's pretty much my whole gist outside
Okay.
of, you know, my hair metal influences that you made fun of me for. Oh, I did want to address the Shepherd of Fire comment.
Oh. Go ahead.
It just
Why not?
it was just because the only reason I want to address it is because like you made it sound like I fucking like had to play that song. That
Because
wasn't.
it was like after every practice, it was like, hey, can we do this? And it was like, oh my God.
It was just fun, man. Like I just thought the song was fun. I didn't think it was amazing. I just thought, you know, we were at that time we hadn't figured out each other's
I mean,
personalities well enough.
those
yet.
are the best songs on the album. I don't disagree.
Right.
but-
You know, but it was just because I wanted a fun song that we could play when we were like, fuck you, you're cool, but fuck you. You know, like I wanted
Yeah.
I wanted a song that we could play to get back together, like as a unit. And I thought that that would be a good song to do.
It didn't work.
It did, because nobody else wanted to fucking play it. I was the only one that wanted to play it. So I guess my
I never even heard it.
music radar
It's
was
'cause you
just
couldn't
way
sing
off.
it. None of us could.
I could, but I couldn't play
What?
it at the same time.
That's the issue. But okay.
But that's why. God
But,
damn it.
I'll comment real quick about your whole 80s thing. I actually loved Bon Jovi growing up. And then same
What do
thing
you mean
with
growing
REO.
up? You're like,
No, I
8.
mean like when I was younger, when I was like before I really got into metal and everything, I really liked Bon Jovi. I liked REO Speedwagon. I
Right.
liked Styx.
yeah, that's how everybody
then-
starts off. That's exactly how it is, because that's the beginning of it.
And you just
Yeah,
get
I mean,
that's
progressively
when-
more aggressive.
Yeah.
Instantly.
And then I mean, I
I
was
was
telling
into
them,
Van
I
Halen
thought,
until I heard Iron Maiden, and I was like, Van Halen, that's just old.
yeah,
man.
right.
I don't know fucking Iron Maiden.
But no, like I was saying last time, I can literally listen to something and put my mind in the sense that this is the first time this is being heard without
Right.
anything that I've listened to before. I can literally put aside Metallica like I've never heard of Metallica. This is the first time Van Halen's coming out. Same with Black Sabbath. And I can immediately go, cool, this is the heaviest thing I've ever heard. Like, you know, like I said last time, I thought Alice Cooper's School's Out was the heaviest thing ever when I first heard it.
Right.
But it's not. It's not.
No, but it's,
It's just
awesome.
rock.
It's
But,
awesome, though.
Like, as I went through with music, I really grew with the more I got into to hate REO Speedwagon and Bon Jovi. Like, if they come on the radio, it's done. No, can't even.
Really,
listen
dude,
to
I
it.
still fucking jam the shit out of all that stuff. Like
No.
whenever Dead or Alive
still
comes
do
on, I'm in the
Styx.
car like car karaoke,
Singing
just
like a
singing the
sumbitch,
shit
me
out of it.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I still listen to Styx, but I can't listen to REO Speedwagon or.
Yeah,
Bon Jovi
I'm over the
anymore.
REO Speedwagon myself. Bon Jovi, I
Yeah.
can do though. There's just something about their harmonies.
I still like listening to that stuff with my dad in the car because he still gets the words wrong sometimes, and it's fun. You know?
Everybody does.
It's like that part where it's like, keep this in mind. On I think that's REO Speedwagon. You take it on the road, baby.
Oh, I
that
hate
one.
that song.
It's that part like comes up and he'll say, "Keep kissing mine," and I'm like, "What?" And he's
it's
like,
kinda like
"Kissing
everybody
mine,
with,
like my ass, kiss my ass." I'm like,
no,
"Dad, that's not
no,
it."
no. But no, it's kind of like CCR with Bad Moon. Everybody
Right.
thinks baboon.
Or there's a
on the right.
bathroom on the right. I've heard
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah,
too.
it's like,
You're
no, it's
what?
a bad moon on the rise.
Yeah, it's not even right. It's
Bathroom
yeah.
on the right.
There's a bad dude on the right.
Or like that frickin' was a KGB like search engine commercial or whatever when KGB was still a search engine, and it's like the lyrics to "Pour Some Sugar on Me," and the dude sings "Pour Some Shook Up Ramen." It's his wife looks at him, shook up ramen.
That's just how it
and he's
is,
just all
man.
yeah, soup.
That's why I
Like
always.
he's 100% right.
That's why I always loved my parents growing up. Like, how can you listen to this? Can't you understand a word he's saying? And they're listening to opera, and you're like, the fuck are they saying?
Right? They're speaking Italian, Mom. Are you Italian? I didn't
No,
think so.
I didn't think so. Can't even tell what they're saying anyway, even though they're saying Italian.
Right, but we're off track again because I do that. So,
All right, so the last person
let's
we-
talk to Connors.
Yeah, let's talk to Connors. So, Connors, what got you into music?
Chicks.
Really,
Okay,
bud?
end of conversation. Done.
Just ladies.
We're done.
I like the ladies.
Hey, I'm not supposed to follow that. Come on now.
Well, that's because we all added to it. But
No, seriously,
that's
I
a great
just-
way to end the podcast.
No,
We're
it
going
was-
to music. Chicks. Chicks. Over.
My father had a Jesus Christ Superstar album, LP, and I used to insist that my mother play it while he was at work. There was just there was this song on that album that was really addictive to me, and it was a groove, and then about a year later, it was all about the Beatles. Like, I can tell you exactly where I was standing the day John Lennon got murdered, because the Beatles were a big deal to me. It's actually the only band I've ever seen where every live performance that I've seen, which obviously was all recorded performances, but every performance was perfect. They never screwed up. The Beatles were perfect. Their music was perfect. Their harmonies made sense to my brain. It was like a mathematical equation that made me go, I know the answer.
Right.
And that's what got me addicted to singing, Paul McCartney and John Lennon harmonies. And then I got into Journey in the mid-'70s. I was like 10 years old. I heard my first Journey album, and it was Steve Perry's second album with them. And so I went back and listened to the first two Journey albums, and he wasn't even in the band.
Yeah,
and
it was Jeff Rowley.
Greg Rowley
Greg
was
Rowley.
the keyboard player, was a singer, and Neil Schon on guitar. They did all the lead vocals, and it was still amazing because it was based on harmony.
Yeah.
Even though there was leads in there, the songs were all vocally oriented, you know. And then when I got into metal, there was a catch-22 there because most metal wasn't like that. But it wasn't that way with Maiden. It wasn't that way with Priest. It wasn't that way with Queensryche. Metallica bored me because James Hetfield wasn't singing.
Yeah, he was yelling.
Back then, he didn't
Right.
really have a voice that way. It was thrash metal. That's what they called it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Everybody was jet black hair, and I was platinum blonde, so I didn't fit in at all. And then I listened to them. Actually, Metallica opened up for every band I saw for a few years. They opened for Ozzy. They opened for Priest. They opened for Maiden. They opened for Dio. They ready for this? They opened for Dokken.
What?
I believe it.
They opened
Dokken?
Dokken. I was like, wait, Metallica is playing with Dokken? This is fucked up. But
That doesn't
I
fit.
went there. It didn't fit at all. In fact,
Yeah.
it didn't fit so bad. The guy in front of me got stabbed that night.
Oh, shit.
We're on the floor of the show, and the guy in front of me gets stabbed
Well, that escalated.
to get his space on the floor because the Metallica fans wanted to kill him because
Yeah.
he had a denim vest with Dokken painted on the back.
Yeah, well,
and
they
he was
s-
like a target. It's like they just wanted to kill everybody
Right.
that was there to see
Yeah.
Dokken. They were spitting on Don Dokken. They had gobs of goob hanging from his hair during
I
the
believe
show.
it.
'cause The
I
Metallica
believe it.
fans just spitting all over.
No, you
I was like,
listen-
who puts these two bands together? What the
Right.
hell's wrong?
Right.
No, I agree,
What-
'cause you watched
What
their,
manager did this? That was dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, you watched their behind the music documentary, and the singer and guitar player from Exodus is saying how they used to get together, at their house, and they would just blare Venom and all that. And if a guy came with a pink stripe or white stripe in his hair or anything, or wearing anything that was not thrash,
Oh, yeah, kick
it
his
was
ass.
kick his ass,
Dude.
throw him out.
Right.
I
well,
met these two chicks at
Yeah.
an Ozzy show. Metallica's opened up for Ozzy on Long Island. They drove from New Jersey to Long Island to see this show because they love Metallica. I meet them in the parking lot. The parking lot before a concert. It's always like the tailgate at the Broncos game. You know what I mean? You're drinking and smoking and
Right.
And I meet these two girls and they invite me to Jersey to go to a Metallica show. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, man, I love Metallica because these chicks were beautiful. And I was like, I want to hang out with you. So I'm like lying because I'm actually there to see Ozzy. I didn't give a shit about Metallica. I was tired of seeing them. They were opening for everybody. So they invite me to Jersey. I get on a train. I go to Jersey by myself. I meet these two girls. It was awesome time. Go to the show. Every human being in the place had jet black hair but me. My hair was almost white blonde. And it was dyed. And I was in a band, so that was kind of the look I had. And they said on the way in the door, here, wear this hat. Right. Why? I mean, I just took all this time to do my hair. Look how good I look. And they were like, no, you want to put this hat on. I was like,
Right.
why? She
Tuck
goes,
your
'Cause
hair
if
under
you go
there.
in
Yeah.
there like this, someone's going to kick your ass. And I was like, for what? For what? Fuck that. I walk in the door. I was like, you guys got that hat?
right. Yeah. Come on, man.
It was really not fun.
No, guys, I feel extremely uncomfortable now. Give me that hat.
You're totally right. If it wasn't about metal, and that was part of my dilemma actually, because I was in a metal band, so you weren't allowed to like anything else. But I liked everything else. I loved George Michael.
Right.
Back in the 80s, I didn't like Wham so much, but when he went solo, he did Faith. And I heard that song, and it touched my soul. And I was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. But I couldn't tell anyone. I loved some of Michael Jackson's stuff, but I could not tell anyone. I loved Elton John,
Right.
but I could not tell anyone because I was a singer in a metal band, and you're supposed to just be thrashing. That's all there was to it. So it's such a contradiction because when you're trying to create your own music and you have these influences, but you have to suppress them because if anyone else finds out, so quite honestly, that's what turned me off of metal. You guys brought metal back into my life, but metal heads turned me off of metal. I have guys I went to high school with that are the same. They will only listen to the same music they listened to in high school. And anybody who doesn't listen to that music is a fucking asshole. It's like, wow, like you didn't change at all. You didn't grow at all.
Just
You
at that
didn't.
time.
Right.
Because, I mean, the whole movement of thrash was because of the hair metal, of how it was no longer about music. It was about getting girls, drugs, and money.
Yep.
And they hated it. So that was the whole reason of their mentality.
Yeah, but
any guy
that
comes
became
in-
the same thing, though. It's
Yeah.
what spawned Korn.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that whole industry, that whole metalcore, it's all the same. Every band sounds the same to me. Every singer sounds the same to me. They do not produce music to me as a genre where there's one group that's just like, yeah, they're the best at it. It's all the same, and it was the same with that LA glam rock. It was all the same. It didn't matter. You could just you could call it Motley Crue, but it was Rat. You could call it Rap, but it was Motley Crue. To me, you could call it Korn, but it's Five Finger Death Punch. You could call it Five Finger Death Punch, but it might be somebody else.
Yeah.
Because there's just a style about it. It's really what I like about us is that we don't, the idea that we have two vocalists that can both do lead. We have completely different influences. The fact that Bro doesn't have 20 years of how he wants to play that bass makes it even more interesting because
Right, you're more malleable.
oh
Yeah,
my
you
God,
can
yes,
fit in.
he does. He's doing things that wouldn't be done by a guy like your guy in Dead Nancy. He's awesome, totally amazing bass player, right? But he absolutely has his own idea about how everything's supposed to sound. People that are virtuosos on their instrument can kind of get in the way of songwriting because, oh no, this is what I feel or hear. You know what I mean? What I like about you is you're not even really, I don't know.
Yeah, because you're
not-
so influenced by so many things that you're willing
by
to actually
music
bring
in
that in.
general.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? That you're not, none of your bass lines are the same.
Right. Well,
Which
that's
is-
kind of like what you were saying with metal in general is we have so many different subgenres of metal, but kind of like what I experienced with my last band is someone gets into that genre or that subgenre metal, and that's all they want to play. They want to sound exactly like that subgenre. They don't want to try anything new. They don't want to add any different styles of metal. They just want that.
Right.
That drives me crazy when singers do it because to me, that's the death of the band. When your singer only wants to do one style,
Yeah, that's what.
then you're
killed-
you're doomed. You're gonna make maybe 2 good albums, and then after that, the guys in the band are gonna be really bored.
Yep,
It's
that's what
like
killed the last
every
band I was
melody
in.
sounds the same.
We had
Right.
3 guitar players who had completely 3 different things. Our lead guitar player was blues influenced, but loved Metallica and all that. I loved Metallica, but was playing more metalcore at the time, like As I Lay Dying and such. And our other guitar player was just thrash. That was it. And our singer at the time was only into the new stuff that's pretty much coming out, like Job for a Cowboy, Black Dahlia Murder, which is what Mike Gordon calls a joke of metal, because it's how heavy can we make it, and how low can I make my growl voice, and I'm just gonna make it sound as death as possible, but there's no music creativity whatsoever.
No
It's a joke.
musicality. Yeah.
That's why
And-
Death Clock is so awesome because it's
Yeah.
built to be entertaining and a joke.
It's a joke.
And if you actually listen to like their instrumentality and stuff, they're really good musicians. Every single one of them is a studio musician except for Brendan Small, who created the show, and that dude can play the shit out of a guitar. I had no idea. That's the same dude that did home movies and stuff like back in the day. Like, I think he had a hand in Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Like, that's who came up with the idea, and that's what makes Death Clock so awesome. Is they're a parody of that. You know what
Yes.
I mean? And when you listen to it, it's phenomenal. But you can tell it's a joke. Like I am be angerous now
Or,
is
do
not
you like coffee?
exactly.
From the hills of
You know?
Columbia? And that's the intro to a song?
Exactly.
It's like Family Guy of metal.
Exactly. That's exactly
I
perfect.
really struggle with it. I really struggle with it. I don't know why. I guess it's not that I don't like comedy, but for me, music is serious. I don't know. I can't get past that. So the comics, the jokers.
So I guess you weren't too into Weird Al Yankovic.
I wasn't. I mean,
fucking love Weird Al.
there were I know
coming
some
to
of it
town.
was really funny.
I
could
know.
laugh the first time when I saw the first VH1 video of Weird Al. I was like, yeah, that was really funny, but I would never buy his album.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what
how
I
I am though.
Right.
I think it's great. I'll watch it, but I won't buy it.
I'm a whore. I buy it.
I when I make something,
I want to be proud of it.
I wanna.
I agree.
I would want to buy it.
Yeah.
If I won't buy it and I made it, I don't want to be part of it.
I
You
think
know what
that's
mean?
why
Like,
Metallica is still so successful. You know, James Hetfield was saying in his podcast with Joe Rogan that we write things that we want to hear. And I think that's the best way to do it, because as soon as you start worrying about what people want to hear, then you start running out of ideas. Because if you write things that you as a band want to hear, someone else is going to want to hear that too.
Well, right. And
It's
then-
because it's a language. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. Somebody else is going to connect to that language and that story. You know what I mean? And when you're already Metallica and you already have the audience base, you can basically write about anything because enough people out there are going to hear it and go, I relate to that.
Yeah.
Because they have a large enough audience. Our issue is our audience is small right now. But I believe that
That's
with
gonna
our
change, I
current
think.
music, we're going to wind up with the same thing. We're writing songs about things
That we wanna hear.
everyone else struggles with, and we want to talk about it. You know what I mean? That's also why you can slap together songs quickly.
I'm sorry. That was my microphone stand. I did it.
Sound like dry rub.
I said I was sorry.
I said I was sorry.
But let's go ahead and get back. So what you were talking about going to see Metallica for the first time. And then
When
what
they were
got you into
solo,
music?
yeah, man.
Was that
At
still
the
with Dave
time, they were called
Mustaine, or-
underground. They didn't call it thrash. It used
Yeah.
to be called underground. It was called underground metal. Was how it first was
Yeah.
put when they
It's 'cause
when they
it
came
was
out.
only just being
and
heard
they
by
were
trading
really the
tapes.
only ones. It really wasn't anybody else. I mean, when Megadeth came out with Peace Sells with Who's Buying, I saw Megadeth open for Dio on New Year's Eve this very night, 30 years ago.
Wow.
Yes. And it was fucking unbelievably weird because the Megadeth crowd and the Dio crowd, just like Dokken and Metallica, it
Two
didn't
different
make any
things.
sense.
Yeah.
But the Megadeth crowd wasn't quite as violent. So
Which
there
is
was
weird
no
to think
emphasis.
Yeah,
about.
it is weird when you think about it. It would seem like the Megadeth crowd would be the more aggressive of the two.
You know what it was is that at the time, because Metallica became famous first, Dave was seen as the redheaded stepchild that got kicked out. And
Yeah.
when they first came out, when Megadeth first came out, they had a reputation as being a copy. Oh, they're just a copy of Metallica.
Which I
Because
disagree
he used
with.
to be in
Me too.
Metallica. Oh, he never was. But because he had the similar riffs, the similar
I don't
sound.
even think he
Sorry,
had the similar
you're right. The
riffs.
riffs were not similar. The sound was similar, and the fact that he was doing the singing.
And didn't he write part of Cthulhu?
He got
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, he
even wrote the
He
Four Horsemen.
influenced a ton of their first two albums. As
He
a
had
player.
a big influence on James. I mean, James knew how to
Absolutely.
play guitar, but it was really Dave that, you know, as people say, kind of created the thrash genre.
But so the people that were listening to Megadeth were not the same people that were listening to Metallica
I
back
think
then.
actually now thinking about it, the difference of why Metallica's fans are probably more violent was if you watched the shows with Dave Mustaine and Megadeth live back then, with the way he's playing so
standing still.
technically, he
Oh, yeah.
stands still,
Oh, yeah.
bobbing his head.
Oh,
Whereas
yeah.
with the way Metallica plays, you can actually move around. And it
Even
has
when he got
so
to
much
Marty
aggr-
Friedman
yeah.
and Cacophony came into the mix, when Megadeth is playing, they're not aggressive on stage. They're like virtuosos, so they're literally almost standing still. You know what I mean?
Right.
They walk around and
Whereas
it's-
Metallica, just
they go
the,
nuts.
The sound, the
Yep,
show
yep,
was
loud and
nuts.
crazy and aggressive.
Which I think is sad because I always tell people about, you look at back then with the 80s to live shows now, and everybody's on their phone or just standing there. And then you watch like 1989 live in Seattle with Metallica, and everyone's in the camera like, fuck you! Just going nuts. And it's like, that's what I want to see. But that's never going to happen.
That's why I love the Slipknot shows so
Never
much,
gonna
dude.
happen
Like
again.
I went to one, and I was in the nosebleed section, and I scared like 12 people away from me because I
But
was really into it.
You have to admit, though, that's kind of sad because
It
the
is.
biggest
It
thing
is
that always
sad.
gets the fans of Slipknot in is because Corey Taylor has them do stuff.
Right.
Metallica didn't have to fucking do anything.
True.
And they just did it.
They just go crazy.
No,
yeah.
it's because of the music.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, gentlemen, there's a huge difference between Slipknot and Metallica.
I agree.
I mean, Metallica is going to be one of those bands like the Stones and U2. They're going to be like
Forever.
universal forever. And
Yeah, I don't
Slipknot
disagree
is
with that.
already done. You know, like, no offense, but they've gone through their cycle, in my opinion, professionally. Metallica their cycle is going to go until they die, just like
Yeah.
the Stones. You know what I mean? So, and they were the original.
Right.
They they paved the way. You know what I mean? Like in English metal, to me, it was Judas Priest. They were before Iron Maiden, long before Iron Maiden. They were putting out albums in the mid-'70s that were like, what? But before them was Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
You know,
During the
another weird
60s.
show I saw where they had Ace Frehley open up for Iron Maiden. And that was bad.
That's
Interesting.
That was really bad, man. The Ace Frehley crowd got its ass kicked by the Maiden crowd. You know, they were booing Ace Frehley off the stage. Why don't you say something?
Did you want to feel a part
I've
of
been
this?
saying stuff.
Oh.
He's been in and out. He's been like little snippets. I was going to have him say hello here in a little bit just to make sure he was still here. Remind
Yeah,
everybody
no.
that he's here.
So anyway,
Oh,
vocally, my
guys.
influences were Journey.
Journey.
And then I got into a metal band. So the first band I was in that did original music, I tried to bring melody to
Please
metal.
don't tell me you try to sing like Steve Perry, though.
I've done Journey covers, but I can't sing like Steve
No
Perry.
one can.
Like,
Well,
no.
Well, except for that
Well,
Filipino.
he
Yeah,
just
except for that
he and
Filipino
I
guy.
don't have the same range,
Right.
but he had an unbelievable control of his range, and as a young
Yeah, I did.
singer, I did not. So we didn't do a lot of Journey. It was just the idea that this is how I described my first band. If someone said, "What do you guys like?" I'd say we're a combination of Metallica and Journey, and people go, "What?" Like because we had heavier music, but we had 3 singers: the bass
Okay.
player, the guitar player, and myself. So we harmonized all the time, like you and I do.
Yeah.
So I think that makes metal music good.
Yeah.
Not the only thing that makes it good, but today's genre, you guys have said it 100 times in this podcast, it's all about the scream and the growl, and it gets old. There's no real story after a while.
Right. Not just that. I think, you hear like with Avenged Sevenfold, there are harmonies, but it's all done by Am Shadows. So when you hear it live,
It's
kinda
not
like
there.
even
It's coming out of the
Megadeth,
sound guy.
I was listening to them do Rust in Peace Polaris live, and it's not the same when Dave is singing
By himself.
the harmony.
Yeah.
Right. They
Meaning
did.
Dave Ellefson, the bass player, when he's singing the harmony with Dave Mustaine, it's like it's not the same because you're so used to hearing Dave's multiple voices doing the harmony.
Right. Yep.
Unlike the Eagles, who have
Yep.
all of them in there doing
Right.
Man, I was in a band in the late 80s, and that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted me to do all the vocals, and I said no. And they were like, "What are you talking about? We own you. Do all the vocals." And I was like, "No."
Yeah, 'cause
These
live,
guys
it's
can
not the
sing.
same.
No, what would happen is because I was the only one doing the parts, I was the only one that knew all the parts. So the other guys kind of knew the parts because they listened, but then we would go to do it live.
that. It's not the same.
They didn't know it. They didn't know it well enough because it wasn't their part. It was my part that they were mimicking. And I was like, that's stupid. You guys know how to sing. Write your own part.
Right.
Like, be your own vocalist. You know what I mean? To me, that's important. That's why there's never been an ego issue between you and I singing.
Right.
Because I love vocal. I love voice. I'm only going to be able to do so much by myself.
That-
I want to hear harmony.
I agree.
I want to hear melodies that are built around multiple voices. You guys have 6 strings. You never play one.
Sometimes.
Well,
we have more.
It depends.
We have
but
one we
yeah.
play more than
Never
others.
play one. How far could you get playing one string?
Approximately 24 notes.
Smart ass.
So to me, to have an interesting vocal, if you only have one, you're limiting what you can do.
I
You
agree.
can't
I
create
agree.
chords.
I think that's why Avenged Sevenfold's self-titled album was so great. Was
Yeah,
because
that's the only
they
one I
had-
like.
Yeah, because they had all the
Did they
other
do that on
members
Nightmare too,
singing
though? I
in
thought
the
they did it on
band.
Nightmare as well.
No,
It wasn't on Nightmare as well? Okay.
no. Well, they had the Rev sing in Fiction, but that's because it was his song before he died.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted to pay tribute, so they took his rough demo recordings of him singing it to give M Shadows what he needed, and instead of putting M Shadows singing that part, put Rev in there.
Wow.
Which they
Okay.
thought
That's
is the
kinda
best
cool.
way to go.
Yeah, it was
And
awesome.
It's
Actually, I
sad,
have to
but
listen to that one.
but yeah, that's the reason why you listen to the live shows of Beast and the Harlot for their album, and you're like, yeah, it's great, but it doesn't sound the same because you're so used to M Shadow's voice doing all the harmonies, and then you listen to their self-titled album live, and you have the Rev back there on the drums doing those harmonies with Sinister because they did it on the album, so you're getting exactly the way you heard it. And even the parts where it's just the Rev singing, you're like, well, that's awesome because he's doing it. You're not having M Shadows do his vocal parts. That's just dumb, in my opinion.
I
If
agree.
you want harmonies, have everybody do the harmonies.
Well, the logic they gave me was, well, you have the best voice, so you'll take less time in the studio. And I was like, oh,
You
well, that's a
frickin'
fucking
do.
cop-out.
Yeah.
So,
Right. That's the
so I'm
easy
going to
way.
tell the rhythm guitar player, well, look, our lead guitar player is better on the fretboard than you, so we're going to have him do all your rhythm parts. No one would ever say that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
because it's vocals and it's metal, it's really not as important. You know what I mean? Like, it used to bug the shit out of me. And then, quite honestly, as metal evolved, which it isn't, there's so many, like you said, diverse subgenres of metal
I think
now.
there's 65 of them. Isn't that what the
I don't
KNSA
know.
But
used
the
to say?
majority of
Something
them have
like
gotten
that, yeah.
away from the origins of metal. They really have. And there isn't quality vocal in a lot of the music that's out there right now. And when you find it, you can't even see these bands on tour more than 5 or 6 months at a time because they can't sing like that.
Yeah, all the
For
time.
12 months of the year. Like, so you get short tours, they skip cities. You know what I mean? Denver is a metal city, so that's really nice. When metal bands come around the country, they stop in Denver pretty regularly.
Right.
Like, every time I bought a concert t-shirt at Nassau Coliseum or Madison Square Garden, when you look at all the places where the bands had been, they were always in Denver, Colorado. But once, bands come around once. Now, I saw Ozzy 4 times in the same tour because at the beginning of the tour, he played Nassau Coliseum. A week later, he played Madison Square Garden. And he went on tour around the country, and on the way out, he stopped at Madison Square Garden and Nassau Coliseum again and sold the places out. And he was touring constantly. Like, Ozzy Osbourne doesn't stop touring, you know what I mean? But you don't see that in today's music anymore, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, well, even Adele, quite honestly, she's on a hiatus right now. Adele's out of the music business right now because she can't sing. Because she developed polyps and didn't take care of it correctly because she was never trained to sing. And she goes ballistic vocally. Yeah, we're forever. You're going to have a lot of editing to do.
That's fine.
Nobody's going to really want to listen to all this.
Oh, they will. Trust me.
No, they won't.
I don't know, dude. I would disagree. I listened to all hour and 32 minutes of the last one.
Well, I just watched Joe Rogan podcast with
2.5 hours.
And it was
Yeah.
2.5 hours. So
I was involved in an elimination show yesterday for 2 hours, and I was bored after 15 minutes.
that's because you were a part of it.
As a matter of fact, I should have been, but wasn't.
Okay.
I got 2 minutes of airtime out of a 2-hour program,
Well,
and I'm still on the show.
yeah. Well, the whole point of it is just like
No, I mean, they gave the other people who were off the show like 25 minutes each.
if
of
you're
airtime.
interested, you're
I
going to
see.
listen to this though, because I mean, you don't have to listen to it all in one sitting.
I get
is
it.
the thing,
Plus,
so.
there's plenty of material here. It doesn't even have to be done all at once.
Yeah,
Right.
I
In
get
fact, what I was just thinking while we were talking is it would be pretty awesome if we did this and played a song. We should do this, then play something. We should describe. We would just spend a whole bunch of time describing how we like to make music and where our influences come from. Then we should literally say, here's an example of what we mean.
We
And then
thought about that
fucking
last
play
time,
a song.
just with the stuff we recorded and do snippets, but not totally
Dude,
sure.
literally, just put the Yeti here. You know what I mean? Just play the song. And,
Yeah.
well, actually,
It's definitely
now,
something we could consider.
once
you
we
know what
get
I mean?
the drums going, we just record off of that. You know what I mean? It's the same exact thing. And then it's a podcast, but a tune. You know what I mean? And then it could be any tune. It could be, we could talk covers, because those are the easiest ones. But we have 2 or 3 of our originals right now that people will go, what? That's so good. Where'd that come from?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because it is new, but it is old.
Yeah, it's pulling from
Well,
different genres.
You know,
Yeah.
now that you brought that up, I was gonna say it's funny how you were saying how metal has completely gone away from what it originally was, which I agree. If you go on iTunes, if you go on Windows Media Player and you go through their store and you actually look at Five Finger, it's not labeled metal. It's labeled rock.
You know why? Oh, dude, Metallica is labeled classic rock.
Well, actually,
That's fucked up.
That's bullshit.
right. Oh, I
That's
agree.
like it. Dumb.
And then
I disagree.
It pisses
I agree.
me off because guess what? Judas Priest is labeled on iTunes. Metal.
And they're literally classic rock.
Yeah, and you know what Black Sabbath is labeled as?
Metal. Yeah, they
You
were.
know what Metallica is labeled as? Rock. It's like the fuck.
Well, that's
Well,
because
it depends on the album
back
that
in
they're
the
on, I
day when
guess.
Sabbath came out, it was metal.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then when Metallica came out, it
was just
was
faster.
thrash. But they've now evolved, and thrash has gotten thrashier. So Metallica is no
I think it
longer
died.
that. They're now
Kind of.
rock, which is messed up. That's messed up.
Right. Well, I
That's
mean,
messed up.
that's what I was kind of trying to allude to is it depends on the album if you're talking Metallica. You know, if I wouldn't consider Load and Reload metal,
No.
but it's good. I enjoyed it. They tried to get a little bit back into
Yeah,
it
it's just
with
rock. You're right.
right, but they tried to get a little more metal with Saint Anger, and they succeeded in some
Modern,
aspects. and
yeah.
in some aspects, they succeeded. In some aspects, they didn't. You know,
But see, I hate that how people dig on that album all the time. I love Saint Anger.
I
don't
like it,
care
but I
what
don't
says.
love it.
I know
It's
the
my least
snare is
favorite.
the biggest thing that pulls people away from that.
It
Like
is.
I can't do that. But the album went to number fucking 1,
Yep.
and then later on we're shitting all over it.
I didn't know that, so Thanks for informing me of that.
There's
I will
only
try
so
not
much you're going to
shit
be
on
able to
it
do.
so much every-
Metallica's got the same problem with Lars than some metal bands I was just talking about with the Screamers. That Lars isn't gonna play new metal.
Right.
Lars is not that kind of drummer.
No.
They're never gonna be able to pull that out. In fact, remember when Priest went from Turbo Lover to Painkiller?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Turbo Lover was the original drummer, and it was like the AC/DC. Boom, ba, dum, dum, ba, dum, ba. You
Yeah.
know, then fucking Painkiller came out, and it was like, what? I mean, that to me was metal, and it's, oh my God, but then only one album. There was like one time they did that, you know what I mean? It was
we
like,
got Ram It Down, and that was it.
Yeah,
that was it. Ram It Down and
I know.
Painkiller. That was
Yep.
it.
You're
Yep.
speaking foreign to me. I know Painkiller from Rock Band.
Yeah.
No, that's the album.
That
name.
whole
Or
album.
Just that whole
I know, but
album.
that's the
album's
only
insane.
song
I
I
was
think
like,
I've
what?
ever heard off
the
of that
same
album.
4 other dudes,
Right.
they just got a new drummer.
Yeah. No, it's funny 'cause now that we're talking about that. When I heard Painkiller, that was the only song that was like, this is fucking nuts. The vocals were a little hard to take at first, but then you're like, him being able to sing that, how long
Yeah.
he holds at the end.
Oh, my God.
Fucking nuts. But I couldn't listen to any of the rest of it. I was only listening to You Got Another Thing Coming
Yeah.
in their
Oh,
first
yeah.
few albums.
Right.
So
Yep.
it was like, that's what I know. And then I actually started listening to Painkiller, the entire album, and Ram It Down. I was like, Between the Hammer and the Anvil, Nightcrawler. Fucking amazing song. I think they're
Amazing.
better than Painkiller.
Yeah. Those are the my 2 favorite albums from them. They were the heavier ones.
I want you to share those with me because I've never heard them.
I will. They're so freaking good.
I was never a huge Priest fan, honestly.
I
is
know
all it
Bro's
was.
not either.
But
Dude, if you're trying to find chicks, you go to the Priest show. Which never made any sense because Rob Halford was gay.
That's why.
Right.
But
That's
that's
why.
where all the chicks show.
Maybe that
Actually,
is why.
My son's first
their
concert
gay
when he was
bestie.
12 years old. My father took me to my first show when I was 12. It was Kiss. So I saw Destroyer live when I was 12. It was really awesome. My son, his first concert he wanted to go to was Bon Jovi. So I'm like, all right, excellent. This was, only he's 9 years ago. So we're getting out at the Pepsi Center, parked, walking up, and I said, there's 2 things you're gonna see tonight, son. You're gonna see concert jeans and big hair.
right.
And that's what Bon Jovi's all about.
Yeah.
He gets there and he's like, what's with all the soccer moms? And I'm like, I try to tell you, concert jeans. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
kind of like
12-year-old looking at all the chicks. He's
Right.
like, oh my
it's
God.
like going to a Rush show and it's like, where are all the girls?
There are no
you
girls.
Fucking kidding me?
That's right.
It's all just a guy band.
Yeah,
man.
totally.
Right. It's a nerd band.
It's a sausage
it.
fest.
It's so true. It's so true.
Like I try to get my girlfriend and I'll listen to it.
Well,
She's
that was
like,
Iron Maiden,
That was
too.
okay, but can we?
Priest,
switch to a
there was
different
women.
band?
Iron Maiden, not so many women.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of whacked.
Metallica, I don't know how the hell they pulled that off.
Yeah.
Because it was so.
No, they got the angry girls.
Yeah.
Which are the kind I attract.
There's a lot of
unfortunately. It seems to be.
That was
man.
random. Okay.
Just putting it out there, I guess. That's my life.
People to know.
Oh, you're the metalcore guy. You're just attracting what you are.
I guess so.
Oh my God, it's New Year's Eve.
It is.
It's New Year's Eve.
We're not even fucking drinking.
Yeah, I'm not
Some
wild.
rock band we are.
I can't do it, man. I get back from the mountain, my body is fucked
I'm
up for
fine
2
without
days.
doing that.
I'm good with that too. I haven't done that for a long time. Get
Done
hammered
what?
on New Year's Eve.
I'll try and have this.
I
up
have not
tomorrow
been
then.
drunk since 1994.
I did it in the Navy because it was like
I'm
what
not
you
kidding.
did.
Yeah, that's when I was born.
Yeah.
December 13th, 1994.
Wow,
The next day, I got held hostage in my college classroom.
Oh shit.
I know, and I was hungover during that incident, like sick
Right.
from
I was
being
9
drunk,
days
and
old.
I never got drunk after that.
I was
9 days old.
I was 8.
I was in college.
I was 2
2.
years.
You're all
Yeah,
youngsters.
Dakota wasn't even born yet.
Dicks.
What?
You're all youngsters, you dicks.
I'm
Oh,
the
come
youngest
on.
Well,
one.
except for, well, we're not all youngsters, I guess. But
It's
Josiah just made me feel
the
old.
truth of the matter
He's
is
9
none
days
of us
old,
got
94.
past 12.
right.
We're all 12 years old.
Right.
That's the typical male stopping point.
Yeah, I'm
We stop at
perpetually 12. I think that's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
We
What's
grow.
funny-
We grow physically, and then gravity works, so we get old.
Yeah.
but
Just
we're
enough
still
of an
12
adult.
years old.
Right. I'm just enough of an adult
Literally,
to pay
you
bills.
guys are in here talking to each other over the microphones like this. And I was like, Mike comes in the door, I'm like, this is like when you got the walkie-talkies, remember?
Yeah,
You're in the same room talking.
Never
on
ends,
walkie-talkies,
man.
like never ends.
No, it's just
12
like when
years
you're
old.
kids and there's a new piece of technology. I don't know how the fuck it works, but I want to touch it.
Instantly, yes.
Where
So, for those of you who don't know, I couldn't find my guitar cables tonight. And I just remembered where they are because they're where I always put them when they're not in my guitar case. They're in my Roland. They're in my amp.
In the back of the amp.
I
Oh my
rolled them up and
God,
I put them in the
man.
back of the amp.
My God, we made 2 trips.
I know. Anyway,
Anyway.
that's an aside.
Anyway.
Alrighty.
I tried to whisper that away from the microphone, but Josiah wouldn't let me.
And that
Killed the
It's killed the
conversation.
mood.
That's twice you've done that.
That's 3 times if we're keeping count. I'm good at it.
No. Here, I'll just end it real quick then.
And we're done.
That's not how you end a podcast,
Fuck you, Sean!
God damn it!
No, he's got the deep voice. He's got to do it. He's got to be the one to say, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. The king has left the-
There's it, your podcast.
Have a safe and happy new year.
Yeah, fuck that.
Tune in next time.
Tune in next time.
We'll actually do my
Same
song
sixth
next
place,
time.
Same sixth
Just
channel.
totally go the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for watching the channel today, and we will see you next week.
Oh, thank you, guys.
So next time we're
happy
going to
little
try to listen
microphone.
to
The happy little
Bernal's
mic.
It's a
song.
happy
It's a
microphone.
happy microphone.
Let's take the Oreos home for the
Take the
cats.
Oreos home. But yeah, there's our podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and comment for anything you want to hear us talk about. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Love to all.
Be safe.